Looking to enhance the appeal and performance of your gym with state-of-the-art equipment? Look no further than the Gym Administrator. Founded by Sal Corrente, professional wrestling manager, promoter, and author of the great book Bruno Sammartino, the autobiography of wrestling's living legend, available on Amazon.com, the Gym Administrator will spot you on that final rep and assist you every step of the way from purchase through installation, whether it be strength training, cardiovascular training, or performance enhancement. The Gym Administrator works with a wide array of leading vendors and suppliers, carefully selected to meet the diverse needs of your clientele. Service the way you remember it. Contact us at 914-494-1066 or visit our website at thegymadministrator.com, as well as all social media platforms. The Gym Administrator. All your fitness needs under one roof. Scan the barcode at the bottom of the screen to get started today.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, filmed out of Tin Mirror Studios in Kings Park, Long Island. In Florida, we've got my partner, the star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
Nervous wreck. What's going on, Mike? How are you, buddy?
Now, why would you be nervous, Jimmy? Tell me what would be making you nervous right now.
Because tonight we have the woman that changed everything as we know it, changed professional wrestling as we absorb and recognize it. And we're talking about the very first WrestleMania. We're talking about Wendi Richter. I'm sweating.
We're talking about a huge moment where this icon of a wrestler who, with the help of Cyndi Lauper, not Hulk Hogan. No, Hulk Hogan's not on the other side of the camera.
Brother.
Not Roddy Piper. It's the great Wendi Richter. The one wrestler who changed the landscape of professional wrestling. Wendi Richter, thank you for joining Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and it's a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this, and I'm excited to talk to y'all.
Not more excited we are. But before we even get started, Wendi, you have to appease us, all right? We were talking about this, and this is very important. So we were going to give you a standing ovation for what you've done for the industry, but both of us are old and we're fat, so we really don't want to be showing our whole body on camera. So we're just going to.
You're fat. I'm not fat.
But I want to give the "we're not worthy" to this icon, because we have to do it, Jimmy. You and I don't usually mark out, but this is this is that situation, right?
Here it comes.
Okay.
Here it comes. All right, I think we should bow. Are we bowing?
Yeah, bow. Go ahead. But
we're not worthy. I don't want to hit my head on the table. Hit my head on the table.
Thank you.
We are not worthy. You are most welcome. Oy.
So, Wendi, before we get into the interview, because we got a lot to talk about, and, I just found out that Wendi actually shows dogs, so I'm excited to hear about that. You know what a dog person I am, right, Jimmy? So
yes,
that's a big deal.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you'd both weigh in on two news items, that would be pretty important. Are you ready, Jimmy?
You're going to wait a minute. You're going to read news items to Wendi? Really?
I want to see what Wendi has to say about these news items.
Your goofy ass weekly news item. All right, go ahead. Fine.
I'll give you the honest truth.
All right, honest truth. There we go. McDonald's releases a new $5 value meal to combat inflation. McDonald's has revealed the details of a highly anticipated $5 value meal, which the fast food chains hopes will revive sluggish sales and lure back customers who have had to cut back. Beginning June 25th, which is just 5 days away, guys, in case you don't know how to count, you'll be able to get the $5 meal. Included in this $5 meal, get this, Jimmy, get this, Wendi, You could get a McDouble cheeseburger or a
Mm.
McChicken sandwich,
Ah.
small French fries, a 4-piece nugget, and a small soft drink.
Eh.
What do you guys think? Do you think this is a good move by McDonald's, or do you think maybe the country has to rethink itself and try to fix what's happening in the
Yeah.
world?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what? You know, it'd be a really good idea if they. It would be a really good idea, because I went to McDonald's today. It would be a really good idea if they revived the giving you 2 straws when you order 2 drinks, because after I left the drive-thru, I realized they had not given me my straws. So why don't we get first things first, McDonald's? Why don't we give us the basic, a couple of napkins would be appreciated with our order, because half the time you go through the drive-thru and you leave and you have no napkins. Today you got no straws. So, maybe you might want to retrain them on the basic condiment thing before we start trying to sell me. By the way, this is kind of cheap of them. A small French fry, a 4-piece nugget. I could take all 4 and eat that in one bite. That's almost like, here, have a Reese's peanut butter cup and a small soft drink. You ever try eating a McDouble cheeseburger with fries and nuggets with a small soft drink? You're going to take 2 sips and you're going to have half a meal left. This is chintzy.
Yeah,
Wendi,
it is
how do you feel about Burger King? What do you think?
I think it's a little bit better, but I prefer Wendy's if I'm going to get a cheeseburger. But I want to try Whataburger. Patrick Mahomes likes Whataburger, and I want to try it now.
Here we go. The Kansas City bandwagon.
You know what we just
Here
realized now, that this commercials do work, because Patrick Mahomes now is convinced the great Wendi Richter to go get Whataburger.
He has convinced me, but there's not one around here. So when I go to the gathering in August, maybe I can find a Whataburger in North Carolina.
So, Jimmy, that's what you have to do. You have to, on the Monte The Pharaoh, you have to treat Wendi Richter to a Whataburger, all right?
This is my assignment for my first appearance at the gathering with my wife, Karen McDaniel.
I want a large soft drink and a large fry with my Whataburger.
It's a done deal, Wendi. On a serious note, Wendi, though, considering this is the news subjects, what are we going to do with the state of this country right now?
We need a president with a backbone that does what's right for the country. We need to secure our borders, because I don't even watch television. I get my news on my phone, and I can't bear to see what's going on. I think I could be a better president than what we have right now. I know I could.
You know, Wendi, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Me too.
Very basic things. Secure our borders, and let's clean up what they're teaching children in school. They don't need to know about the LBGQ, whatever it is, at 5 years old or 7 years old. I don't know why. I don't know why our country's in such bad shape. I didn't know our country was so corrupt. I'm just waiting for the next election, and I'll do my part.
I think we'll all try to do our part, and I can't agree with you more on the situation here. We had Rock and Robin on a couple of weeks ago. We were speaking about it. We're giving a whole entire month to people's sexuality, but we can't. We give 1 day to a veteran who sacrifices their lives for our rights to do what we want to do.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
We should be taking care of our veterans, our American homeless people first.
I love it. You're 100% right. Take care of inside. But again, you know what? This will become a total political show, and I don't want to do that to you.
Right. And I don't want to offend anyone.
It's a big fat mess. Stay tuned.
The one thing is for sure, we found out that Wendy's a Swiftie, and there's one thing you can't do in this country.
Right.
If you attack a Swiftie, you might as well go hide and run away because they'll get you. The Swifties will get you, man.
Well, I
Sounds like
don't
a
know that
cult.
much about the Swifties. I just like her music. I don't know about this. They seem like they're a little erratic themselves. I like her music, and I like her friends' music, Selena Gomez, both of their music. So, and I like football now. So I'm really happy. I can't wait for football season to start.
Can I?
Wendy, you got to explain. Wendy, how did football pass you? You told us off the air that you only started watching football last year. How does football pass you by your whole life, and now you're into football? How'd that happen?
Well, I thought the game just went too slow. I mean, 4 hours. So the way I like to watch it, I like to watch the highlights after the game, so I can watch it in like 35 minutes and just see the highlights. The only full game I've ever watched was this Super Bowl last year, and I thought, oh no, it's not looking good the first half. And then it picked up the second half, and I enjoyed it. But the first half is like, gosh, maybe I should just go home. I'm getting depressed watching this.
Wendy, I can tell you with utmost confidence, you would not last 5 minutes as a New York Jet fan.
Well, I was going to say that.
Wait a minute now. Doesn't Aaron Rodgers, isn't he their quarterback?
Yeah, he was last year for 4 plays and then got hurt.
Oh, you're kidding. So who's their quarterback?
No, I wish I was kidding. I can't make up that kind of Stephen King stuff, you know.
Well, didn't Kennedy
Yeah, Bobby.
didn't they want to make him the vice president if he won?
Yeah, that would have been typical Jets, that he leaves us to go try to run for the White House. That would be very Wendy, you wouldn't last 5 minutes. We've been getting our colons removed on a game-by-game basis for over 50 years, Mike and I, watching the Jets. So,
to Jimmy, we failed to remember that, we could remind Wendy that we were in the other side of the Taylor Swift movement, where we were beating the hell out of Kansas City, but the power of Taylor Swift, the referees made sure that we were going to lose that game, and boy, did they take that game from us.
What are you talking about? The Buffalo Bills?
No, the New York Jets.
No. There was a game this past season, Wendy, where the Jets played the Chiefs, and Zach Wilson, who was quite possibly the worst quarterback in Jet history, statistically, had the game of his life. And the Jets were beating Kansas City, and we were beating them good. And then all of a sudden, a funny thing happened.
Kingdom? The Jets were at Chiefs Kingdom?
Yeah, the Jets were playing the Chiefs. Well, was that a home game, Mike? Did we play the Chiefs at home?
No,
right?
we were in. Oh, we might have been at home. We might have been. Yeah.
I think we were at home. But a funny thing happened. We're doing great. We got the lead, and all of a sudden, every 2 seconds, there's Taylor Swift on the camera. The next thing we know, the referees are starting to make very peculiar calls that are still talked about.
I don't believe it.
Oh, geez. Forget it, Mike. She's hypnotized.
You know what? I agree with Wendy, Jimmy. I think you're lying. You're lying, Jimmy.
God, what a mark.
I don't remember seeing that game. That's before I started watching football. I didn't start till, I think, October.
Right. Well, you picked a good team.
They had some rough games.
You picked a good team, and they're going to be great for years to come. So it's not like you didn't see good, you know.
They're going to win the Super Bowl again. They're going to get a 3-peat, a 4-peat, a 5-peat, a 6-peat.
Oh,
They're going to blow Tom Brady out of the water. They're going to say,
God.
All right, guys. One more news item. The great Donald Sutherland dies at 88. Cause of death is a long illness. Actor Donald Sutherland has died. The cause of death is not revealed, but a long illness. He was an actor in the Hunger Game trilogies, MASH, and many other things. Any fond memories from either of you on the great Donald Sutherland?
I'd have to say I kind of grew up on MASH, and I really liked that show. They kind of glamorized that war.
Yeah, Sutherland, I think of 2 movies. Obviously, he was in Animal House. with the late great John Belushi, and I remember him from the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Leonard Nimoy. He was very good in that.
Wow.
So
wow.
he made it. He made it to 88, and that's a really, really good grade on the report card. Plus, I never heard him make any, like, typical actor, douchey political comments or anything like that. He seemed like he was pretty class act, kept to himself, and he's a Hollywood legend. I'm sure he's got a star on the Walk of Fame. If he doesn't, I don't know what that's all about.
Well,
but Sutherland was a great, great actor.
Rest in peace, Donald Sutherland. All right, Wendy, you ready to go? Here we go.
Okay.
Okay. You're a Hall of Famer and you're an icon. What's it going to take you to come out of retirement and respond to Toni Storm and her challenges to you on a regular basis?
What?
They're going to have to come up with some cold, hard cash. That's what it's going to take. She's going to have to clean it up a little bit. She doesn't need to keep dropping the F-bomb. It's not necessary. I never even knew who she was till someone told me to watch that. It's like, why do they keep bringing my name up?
Well, because
I'd take her on, but they're going to have to really pay me well.
I'll tell you what, I would love to see you come out of retirement and destroy Toni Storm. You could do it. You definitely could do it.
I got 2 words for Toni Storm. Bring it.
Bring it, baby.
Nice. Nice. Hey, can we be in your corner? Mike, I want to be in her corner. We'll roll her foreign objects and everything.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wendy, before we get into your storied career, can you tell us about you growing up and your parents and what it was like growing up a young Wendi Richter?
Well, both my parents were married 3 times. So I moved around a lot. I lived with one parent 1 year, one another, back and forth, different schools every year. I had to learn to be tough at a young age. And there was always bullies in different schools. They didn't pick on me, but they'd pick on kids that looked different. I'll put it that way. I mean, they could have had thick glasses or small or whatever. And I was always defending the people that was getting picked on. Because it wasn't right. So I didn't have the best upbringing, but I learned from my parents' mistakes. I'm not married. And
wow.
it was a lot. It was tough going to a different school every year. I wouldn't know what a normal upbringing was because I sure didn't have that. But I turned out okay. I learned that, you've got to, well, number one, you got to get a good education. And that noise you hear is puppies. I have a litter of puppies in the next room, Anatolian Shepherds. So if you hear puppies barking, I fed them right before we started, so they like to eat and go to sleep. But I really didn't have the best upbringing. I did go to church, and I am a Christian. So I think, well, not more than think, I know God has protected me and still is protecting me.
Did you have to fight a lot as a kid growing up? I mean, you said you would. By the way, Mike, where was that person in our high school to stick up for the kids who were getting tossed around? But did you have to fight a lot, Wendy, to defend these kids?
No, me telling them they had to go through me first I was larger than most people. I remember in one school, the only kid bigger than me was Tank on the football team. And I actually did get in one fight, and I got suspended. I told the girl if she made another comment or hit this other person, I was going to punch her, and she did, and I punched her, and then the fight was on, and I was suspended. But that's the only time I got suspended.
What makes you decide to become a pro wrestler? Was it an easy decision, considering you were bigger than, like you said, bigger than most people your age and stuff? Was it a natural, progression into wrestling? What makes you become a pro wrestler?
No, a friend of mine, I I was probably 17. As she didn't have a car and I did, and she wanted to go to the wrestling matches and asked me if I would go with her. And so I did, and they had a women's championship match that night, the Fabulous Moolah against Vivian St. John. And I told my friend, I said, if I was trained, I could beat the Fabulous Moolah. And I did 4 years later. So I fell in love with wrestling the first time I watched it, just like football. When when I actually watched what was going on, I like it.
So how do you go from your first match you attend, you see Moolah, to actually meeting up with Moolah for the first time? How and when does that happen after that first night you watched her wrestle?
It took me probably about a year. I had to save up the money to go to wrestling school. I was on my own. I was 17, and I was going to business school and working, and I saved up my money and went to wrestling school, and then I started going to wrestling matches. My first match was on Christmas Day in Atlanta, Georgia. It was a 10-girl battle royal. Yeah, that was fun. I think I was tossed out the first or second one. I was a newbie and so nervous, but I enjoyed it. I loved it.
So, Wendi, when you decide to become a pro wrestler, are you still talking to your parents at that point? Because you said you were on your own. Did you still have contact with your parents?
Well, my mother, my father, I moved out when I was 17. I left a note and told I was living with my father, that I was moving, and I don't know when he got the letter, but I was already gone. So, and matter of fact, it was like maybe 6 months later, a year later, I wrestled right in my hometown, and I didn't tell him. So I was afraid he'd jerk me out of the ring and make me go home.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So you're in contact with your mother. You decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this pro wrestling thing. Is there some point that you say to her, hey, Mom, I'm going to be a pro wrestler? And if you did, what was her comments to you?
I remember she was always very supportive. She said, if I was younger, I'd do it myself.
Very
so
cool.
I thought, wow, my mom's cool.
I love it.
My father, another story. Oh gosh, he could come up with some cuss words, and he wasn't happy about it.
Wow.
Wendi, were you trained at any point by Moolah? You said you got your training and you had your first match as a battle royal, but did you get any training from Moolah?
Well, not actually from her, other than in the ring. Um, she didn't actually train me. No.
It's obviously been documented about how Moolah was to some of the lady wrestlers back in the day and how harsh she could be. And she's even been accused of trafficking, all sorts of things. I don't know if you've heard about this craziness, but can I just ask you, just from your own personal experience, how was Moolah to you?
She's an evil. Well, she's dead, but she was a very evil person, very negative. Um, I've never heard anyone cuss and be so negative about people. And she talked bad about everyone that wasn't in front of her. As soon as they, got out of hearing or eyesight, she talked bad about everybody. I don't know that. I don't believe she trafficked people. Uh, she never did that to me. I heard of people going off for photo shoots in California, and I don't know how much they paid them, and they might have asked them to remove some clothing. I don't know if I even trust the people that said that. I personally was never approached that way, so I can't say that that's true because I personally never saw that.
I mean, you could only go off the experiences that you have, and that was like my question to you. Here, you're trying to build this career as a pro wrestler. It's basically a male-dominated sport at that point. We know what you've done for the industry and how you've allowed these new women to become multimillionaires thanks to people like you and Rocket Robin and Medusa, and the list is very long. But you being very, if not the highest on the list. My question to you is, was it difficult maneuvering yourself through the professional wrestling world?
Oh, it was very difficult because um, we didn't make much money at all. I make far more money now than I ever did at wrestling. That's one of the reasons I left uh, professional wrestling is because, I just wasn't making enough money by the time I paid for rental car and a hotel room and food. Most of the time, that's all that I was paying to go on the road, which is terrible because you get injured and you're away from your family, and how can you have a family yourself when you're wrestling every night or multiple times a week, year round? There's a lot of sacrifices that we made, and just being on the road is really hard. Not so much the time in the ring, it's the other 23 and a half hours, traveling and staying in hotels and going to airports and waiting, and it's tough. And to not make money, it was tough.
Well, let me ask you this then. Rockin' Robin was on. We asked her when she became WWEF champion. She said maybe she was making 70 grand. You were at one of the highest points in wrestling, especially at that moment. And you had a cartoon figure. You were in a cartoon. You had a lot of stuff going on. What was a Wendi Richter making at that point in time? And a second to that question is, you also wrestled in the AWA also. What was the pay comparison between the WWE and the AWA?
It wasn't that much difference. And
wow.
She made more than I did. When I left the WWF, it was before it was WWE. I wrestled independent shows, and I made more money then. And by that time, I was just wrestling on the weekends, and I was going to college full time. So I worked my way through school. It took me 12 years to get a master's degree because I was working full time and going to school at night. But I did it, and I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of that. And that's something no one can take away from me. So I've never recommended anybody get into wrestling, but if they really had to and wanted to, I told them go to school first, get an education, have a career you can fall back on. If you get injured, nobody wants you. So you've got to have a career to fall back on.
I got to
Wendi, I just want to make this clear to my own sanity. Are you telling me that during WrestleMania, during the MTV thing where countless thousands of kids are watching this, and WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania at the Garden, and all the money that was made there, that they were barely paying you enough just to make ends meet? Is that fair?
Yes, that's very fair.
Wow. Unreal.
And that was my problem with the WWF. Is every encounter I had with Vince McMahon, I told him I have to make more, because I'm spending everything just traveling on the road, and I didn't do drugs,
right?
So I wasn't putting my money on drugs.
But Wendi, let me ask you this: you didn't make extra money from the cartoon? Like, how did that agreement come out? They're using you. They did. Wow.
Sounds like they just helped themselves to your character and didn't cut you a piece. Is that fair?
It may have been 20 years later, I got a royalty check from them, very small, and now I get some royalties, but it's not much. I mean, I can't live off that. It's just a little extra.
How was that approach to you, Wendi? You just said 20 years later, you got a check. How were you contacted? You get a phone call? How you doing there, Wendi? I'm a little late on this.
Yeah, I got a letter in the mail, and I even contacted them. I said, that's all for 20 years? You've been holding this for 20 years? So what
Wow.
can you do?
Wow.
Wow.
Wendy, you worked for both Bill Watts, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and Vince McMahon Jr. How similar are they, and what are their differences working for each of these two guys?
I didn't make much money for Bill Watts either, but at least he would come back after a match and say, that was a good match, or I appreciate you working hard. And I told him that years later at the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, that he's like the only promoter to ever come back and thanked me for working hard or gave me a compliment. And it meant so much to me because I admired him. And I thought, that's really nice. That makes me want to work even harder. So, it
Right.
cost him nothing to say that kind word. And at that time, women were kind of used like the midgets were, as a special event, an added attraction. The
And
girls.
how about Vince Jr.? What's your memories of how he treated you, behind the scenes?
Uh, he was never rude. He never made a pass at me. He was always a gentleman. But I feel like he just didn't listen to me when I was trying to tell him that I can't survive on what I was getting paid. I made a lot less than their opening matches, and a lot of times I was semi-main event, and the opening matches, the first match, they made more than I did. So I'm glad things have changed for the women, that they should be paid like they would a man, in that ranking on the matches. They should be
Mike,
paid
Mike,
more.
I don't normally say this, Mike, but I'm actually rooting for Tony Khan to cut a paycheck to a WWF legend right about now.
Listen, I'm listening to this and I'm in shock because as a fan back then, this, Wendy's part of one of the biggest. She and Cyndi Lauper, both,
Yep.
are the
Yep.
initiators. And let's put Moolah in here and Lou Albano because that's fair.
Sure.
They made the difference in pro wrestling. We were discussing, Wendy, before the show, that if you never have this match with Moolah, does WrestleMania ever even get off the ground? Can I ask you, what did they pay you for the match, the brawl to end it all? Do you know what they paid you for that? Do you remember?
I do, but I don't like to, give the specific amount. It wasn't very much. Not what it should have been anyway. It was the largest pay I'd ever received for a match, but based on it being semi-main event, it should have been a lot more.
And it was at the time the most viewed show on MTV's history. I'm sure
Yes.
you're aware of that, right? So
Yes.
I'm a little surprised. Wendy, I'm going to ask you. You're a very respectful lady, and I get that feeling. I'm going to ask you a tough question. If you don't want to answer it, I totally understand. Vince McMahon's been accused of some things recently, or at least in the last year. What are your feelings about that situation of the accusation against Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
I really don't see him doing that. I can't help but think that woman planned the whole thing, that she knew what she was doing, and I don't see him doing that. I really don't. He was always a gentleman around me, and I've never seen him act out of line around any other woman either. I really don't. I think he was set up. And I don't know the whole story, but just knowing him and his character, I really don't believe that.
For the record, Wendy, we don't either.
Wendy, I want to go back a little bit. So, obviously, you're not getting paid what you deserve. Is there any point you reach out to I'm assuming you had relationships with like Roddy Piper or Hulk Hogan, who may have had more clout within the federation. Did you ever reach out and voice your opinion on how unfairly you thought women's wrestling was being treated? Obviously they were well aware of the catalyst that you were.
No, no, I didn't. And I really think, I mean, I was around a lot of evil people doing a lot of bad things. I don't think God wanted me in that situation.
Mm.
Nothing happens just by chance. So when I left the WWF, I got saved and become a born again Christian. And then I started going to college, and my life really, really changed. So I don't have any bad feelings for Vince McMahon or what happened there. Just the opposite. I'm glad I got out of there, and my life changed.
So was this almost like a two-headed coin? Like I imagine you were immensely famous during that point, right? You probably couldn't go anywhere. Everybody knew who you were.
I know. I went to see my grandmother in Kokomo, Indiana, and got up at like 6 a.m, was jogging, and people ran out in their yards and they knew who I was. I couldn't believe it. I had on no makeup, my hair in a ponytail, jogging in Kokomo, Indiana.
Let me ask you this. Beautiful woman, athletic, talented, famous. Did you have any famous people ask you out on a date?
No, not really famous people. All I did was work and go back to the hotel. I really wasn't out much.
Man, not even an MTV VJ like JJ Jackson?
JJ Jackson.
No.
With that leather jacket. Hey, Wendy, want to go shake some hips at the disco? Nothing? Wow.
No.
Kind of surprising. But you know what? While we're on the MTV thing, first of all, how is Cyndi Lauper not in the WWE Hall of Fame? What's up with that? Maybe you could tell us about that. But I also want to know, what was your relationship with Cyndi Lauper when this was all happening back in the day? And do you guys have a relationship now?
Well, let's get back to that other question. That was back
Sure.
before cell phones. So if I gave someone my phone number, I wasn't home. I'm sure not going to call other people. So, but I think it'd been different now with a cell phone where they can reach you anywhere. But
Right.
I was traveling maybe 10 months out of the year. So I don't even know if I had a home phone back then because I wasn't home. I might have, but I wasn't there to answer the phone call.
All right, so before you hit Jimmy's question, then let me ask you this. How many stalkers did Wendi Richter have?
Oy.
You know what? Probably 2. And one was scary because I got home. It was probably 10 o'clock at night, and the person called me, and they said, "I know you're home." It's like, wow, how did you know I was home? I lived out in the woods on 20 acres.
Man.
And so, you know what? I got a couple guns. I got something for someone. And I've got some big dogs. Anatolian Shepherds are between 130 and 150 pounds. They may come in the house, but they're not making it out alive.
Mike, I think I know why the celebrities weren't calling.
Yeah, I think so too, right?
She got guns and dogs.
I got some big dogs that, matter of fact, the litter I have, she had 11 babies. This dog, right? If I had to pick one dog that would protect me more than any of them, it would be her.
Oh, jeez.
There you go.
Someone looks at me wrong and she bares her teeth. I couldn't even have a dog sitter. I had to go to St. Louis Hall of Fame. When was that? Well, it was about 5 weeks ago, and the puppies were born a few days before that. So I have a professional handler that helps me when I go to dog shows because I enter like 5 dogs at a time. And so I paid her to come and just stay at my house. I said, your job is just to watch to make sure those puppies are safe. And if
Mm.
one of them's hungry, to bottle feed them. And she couldn't even touch him. The dog wouldn't let her, and the dog knew her too.
Wow.
But she wouldn't let her near him. But she stayed right with her and let her out to potty and fed the mother dog. But she couldn't touch the babies.
So when you win these shows with the dogs, do you then put them out to stud like a horse, and then they make that kind of money? Is that part of the deal?
I haven't got to that point. I'm not a breeder. This is my third litter of Anatolian Shepherds. I have the dog's mother, and now I have her, and now she had 11 puppies. So these are really nice puppies too. I'm not gonna keep all of them, but I may keep half of them to show. And no, you don't make money at it. The stud fee, I spend a lot of money on the dogs. You don't make money, but nobody's going to sell you their best dogs. So you got to make your own.
Gotcha.
And I've got some. Yeah, I had the #1 Anatolian in the nation in 2022, and actually I tied for #1. They said, but I believe I had a couple more points. But anyway, that's a high honor, very, very high honor.
So wait a minute, you don't pull the Wendi Richter card at this show? Like, do you know I'm Wendi Richter? Like, come on, let's go here. What are you doing?
No one even knows it. There may be a couple people there that know.
Ridiculous.
My handler knows, but I don't tell people.
We got to fix that, Wendi. You got to start. You got to start throwing your name out there.
But if she pulls the Wendi Richter card, you got some jabroni like videotaping it. Oh, look at this entitled person.
All right, Jimmy. Before we got to get that Cyndi Lauper question, but I got a question for Wendi now, because now I got to go on another trip. All right, so we asked you if you had any stalkers. We have if famous people asked you out. How about wrestlers? Did like the Iron Sheik ever ask you out, or did like Hulk Hogan ever ask you out? Andre the Giant.
He did, but I think he asked every woman out that he met. And I told him I wasn't interested. And he asked me, was I gay? I said, just because I don't want to go with you doesn't mean I'm gay. And after that, he was very nice to me.
Oh, that's too funny. Oh,
brother.
Oh
my God! So tell us about Cyndi Lauper. Like, what were your memories when this awesome thing was happening back in the day with MTV and WrestleMania? And do you still have a relationship with Cyndi now?
When I got the phone call from her, I couldn't believe it, because that was my favorite song. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. It was my mantra on the road. I thought, oh wow, that. And then when she called me, I said, oh my gosh, yes, I'm interested. She wanted me to represent her in the wrestling match. And then Lou Albano had chose Mola to represent him. So it's very exciting. And she's such a nice person. I went shopping with her in New York City, and she gave me a makeover as far as clothing and makeup. And she was just so good. Such a sweet person. I thought she'd be like doing drugs and smoking dope and things like that. She didn't do any of that.
Wow.
Did you stay friends with her over the years?
Oh yeah. I mean, we don't call and talk to each other. I saw her maybe about 4 years ago in Orlando. Her and Rod Stewart had a concert, and it's the first concert I went to of hers. And I had such a good time, and went backstage and talked to her and everything. It was fun.
She's very, very talented. Most people don't realize that she's a musician. It's not just it's not just the dancing and the video and stuff. She's much more than just a front, for lack of a better term, a front man.
Yes.
She's a really well-rounded musician. Can I ask you again about, because I know we diverted over to the dogs conversation, of course, but Cyndi Lauper is not in the WWE Hall of Fame. You like how I said that, Mike? Cyndi Lauper is not in the WWE Hall of Fame, which blows my partner and my mind completely. We don't get that. Is Cyndi even interested in wrestling? Has she had a problem with somebody at WWF? Or does she ignore that chapter in her life publicly? Where are we at with Cyndi Lauper and her take on wrestling from what you know of her?
I didn't ask for that personally, but it must be a conflict of schedule. I don't know, but it's a shame that Roddy Piper still isn't alive to him and I could have inducted her into the Hall of Fame. I think she will be sooner or later. I don't know why. She's done a lot more than everyone else that's been inducted in the Celebrity Hall of Fame.
Right.
So I have hope for her, but I think timing has to be right, and she'd probably want to do it in New York City because that's where it all happened. And I'm hoping it will happen. No one deserves it more than her.
Agreed.
I agree on that. Wendi,
Agreed.
question. So we talked about the unfairness of women in pro wrestling. Cyndi Lauper during that time was a major advocate for empowerment of women. She's another contributor to where women have gone. I mean, a lot,
Yes.
yourself. There's a lot of unsung heroes, right? Obviously, in different industries. You're one of them. You were one of the women that Moolah represented the weighing down of women, where you represented the empowerment of women. And clearly, this was an issue. I don't know what kind of real relationship you had with Cyndi, but was there any point where you would say to her, "This is the way they're treating me. Do you have advice?" And did she say anything, or did you ever have that relationship where you could ask that type of question?
No. I just kept it to myself. I tried so hard to get through to the people that were paying me. I didn't feel like I had to talk to other people about it. It's either you're either going to pay me or I'm leaving. And I left.
Right.
So one person can be replaced. I learned that. I mean, I think I was 23 at the time, maybe 24. My brain wasn't even fully developed, but I think I did the right thing. Well, I know I did.
Well, you stood up for what you believed in, right? I mean, that's got, you know what? You're walking the walk. Again, you're exactly, as funny as it is, you're exactly how the character portrayed itself, right? An empowered woman.
I know. And I did so many documentaries in the past few years, and one of them, the last one was for Hulk Hogan, and the people weren't entirely honest. They said they wanted to do a documentary for Hulk Hogan. I said, "Oh, okay." And so I get there. I said, "Well, you're not going to interview Hulk Hogan?" So and it was about his lawsuit, and I already took the day off and drove to where they were, like 4 hours away, and I said, "Well, I'll go ahead and do it, but I don't care what you say. I'm not going to say one thing bad about him. So say what you want, but he's a nice person. I think what happened to him was wrong, and so I didn't even watch it. That was it. The Gawkers?
Yeah, I think that was that
The
Netflix
name
thing,
of
right?
that was yes, but the name of the documentary was the Rich and Unfamous. Or, I don't even know the name of it, but and I didn't watch it either. So I hope Hogan saw it and at least saw one person stand up for him. But it felt like the Hogan cartoons. Like I would have done that on the cartoon. So it was that the person that portrayed me on the cartoon has the values I do in real life.
Well, you could definitely tell you have a high moral standard, without a doubt. WrestleMania 1. Did you know that Vince was trying to take over the wrestling industry? We've talked to other wrestlers, and they're like, we just thought it was going to be another show. We didn't know it was going to be what it ended up turning out to be. What was going on in your mind?
Well, I knew it was a big deal for them to have Muhammad Ali and Liberace and Mr. T, all those people. I knew it was a very big deal. And then it being at Madison Square Garden, that was my favorite place to wrestle. Just because of it being Madison Square Garden. So I knew it was a very big deal, but I had no idea that, they'd still be. I just went to the 40th WrestleMania in Philadelphia. and I sat ringside, and I couldn't believe 40 years later I'm back.
Are you proud of what you and the other women have built? When you look back at it, I know you got out of it. It was a good thing for you. But when you look back, are you proud of what you accomplished? Because you are the spark.
I am. I had to fight for that. I'm still fighting to get paid in a different venue, but I'm really tired of fighting. I'm an easygoing person, and just to have to fight all the time, that's life, though. I guess when you stop fighting is when you're in the grave.
Yeah, that's a good comment. I
There
think
you
I'm going
go.
to copyright that. I'm going to trademark that line.
Okay.
Wait, what do you mean? Okay, you're giving away your money again, Wendy. Wait a
That's
minute.
right, Jimmy. She
That's
blew
not
it.
okay. That's not okay. All right, lucky me, Wendy. I get to ask the tough question of the night. Sometimes we just pull the questions out of a hat, and this one said Pharaoh on it. Here's a question that, look, you're part of what Mike and I would call the original screw job, okay? And it's been documented that you told a story that you didn't know it was Moolah behind the Spider Lady mask. Can you tell us what happened that night? And I have to ask you, how did you not know that that was Moolah? You've worked with her.
Well, she had a mask on, and she was fully. Do you see my dog right now?
Yeah, we can.
This is Adira.
Your dog right now is saying to you, tell the true story, Wendy. Tell the true story right now.
Well, she's only about 3.5 years old, so she doesn't know. She doesn't know the story.
Moolah had a very unique build. I don't care if you put a mask on Moolah. How did you not recognize that baked potato was Moolah?
Baked potato.
I'm sorry. You really didn't know. You're sticking with that one. I respect it if you are, but like I said, I pulled the tough questions. So
yeah,
tell us your recall on that night.
I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
Until it was too late. It didn't matter who it was under the mask and outfit. I knew they couldn't beat me. I'll put it that way, fairly. But they didn't have to. The referee gave me a fast count and it was over.
What are your emotions when that happens? Because you said you didn't know that was coming. Are you pissed off? Are you looking to punch Vince in the face like Bret Hart did in '97? I mean, what's going through your mind?
It would have been a lot worse than that. I probably would have killed him with my bare hands.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I was so upset. I was so humiliated and embarrassed that I left Madison Square Garden in my wrestling tights. And I think it was November. It was cold. And I grabbed my bag and marched right out and hailed a cab in my wrestling outfit that night and went to the airport. And that was the last I spoke to them. And at least 20 years went by. And someone called me, I think it was Howard Finkel, and asked, would I be interested in doing a battle royal? And I said, sure, I would. And I told them how much I wanted to make. And then they never got back with me. And so WrestleMania was approaching. It's probably a month away. And I called them and I said, listen, I don't have a plane ticket yet. Oh, they said, we changed our creative direction. I said, well, when were you going to tell me, or were you just not going to? And so that was the last I heard from them. And then a year later, they contacted me and asked me would I like to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I said, yes, I would. And that was that.
When that whole thing goes down with Moolah, I know you didn't have a great relationship with her, but did you ever call her and say, hey, what kind of disrespectful stuff is like to do that? Did you ever get to close that door with her?
No. But when they asked me to do the Battle Royal, I did ask him. I said, is Moolah going to be in it? Because if she is, I'll do it for nothing.
Nice.
That's friggin' awesome.
Nice. Wendy, I'm having trouble getting past this, though. You mean to tell me, which I do believe, though, that you go out and you hail a cab. You've just been screwed out of your place and status in the company, and thousands of fans. Now, I remember when it happened. I'm pissed off. I'm mad for you, and I don't even realize what's going on here. Is just to the degree that it's going on. You mean to tell me that the woman who was worth the most in the world at that point to the television product, they don't even call you the next day? They don't even pick up a phone to explain to you or try to talk to you about it? It was really 20 years of silence?
20 years of silence. And I wouldn't
That's
have called them. They called me 20 years
that's
later.
insane.
Wow.
That is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow, Mike. That's all I could say about that.
It
Just
is.
wow.
You see why I had to get saved? I sure did. And you know
There you
what?
go.
I wasn't waiting for the phone to ring. I'll put it that way.
Right.
I was wrestling independent. And I was making more money than I ever did with the WWF.
There you go.
Well, speaking of that, you end up going to Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
The question I have is, considering what you know happened to Bruiser Brody over there, did you have?
That was before that. I never went back there after that. I don't think. What was his? Jose Gonzalez was protecting himself. I think he just got upset. They had a disagreement, and he stabbed him. I mean, that's not unusual in Puerto Rico.
Right.
They're very violent there. He murdered him and got away with it.
Right.
I'd never go back there.
So
you blacklisted
you
along
were
with
over
many other
there.
wrestlers.
You were there before the murder. You're saying.
Before, yeah.
Wow. Did you know Bruiser Brody at all?
Yes. I can't say we were good friends. We were acquaintances. We were on the same card quite often. He was a very nice person, very talented.
Wendy, it's a tough question, but do you believe that Carlos Colon had knowledge of what was going to happen to Frank Brody in the shower?
I don't think he knew ahead of time. I think it was. I don't think it was. I don't know the situation, but I could just see Jose Gonzalez getting mad and stabbing him. I don't know if it was premeditated, and I don't know that Carlos would have went along if he knew ahead of time that was going to happen. I don't think he'd have went along with it.
Was Puerto Rico the craziest place you ever had to work as far as how the fans treat everything and the
horrible, horrible. When I would go to the ring, the referee was in front of me. He had chains, I don't know, maybe 4 feet long, and he would just heavy chain, swipe, swipe, swipe. He was like clearing a path, and there was humans was hitting with them chains to walk out to the ring, and people grabbing me from behind. I'm surprised I didn't get knifed there myself.
Jeez.
Sounds like you had a little bit of a Roman Coliseum experience in modern day history. Very interesting.
I know. Yeah.
Wendi, you also end up going to the AWA. How was it working under Vern Gagne? How was Vern as a promoter?
Well, they didn't want to pay either. So I had a very short stint with them, maybe just a few months, 6 months. And I mean, they didn't even want to pay me at all. And I was their champion. And they wanted to book me. I said, listen, I'm not working for you unless you pay me. And I'm going to keep the belt till you pay me. And so they finally paid me, and I mailed them the belt back.
Wow.
That was that bad, yeah.
Should have sent it over to Stan Hansen. He could have ran it over with his tractor trailer like he did the AWA heavyweight title. Unbelievable. Now, Wendi, I've never heard these stories, but again, I've got a question here for you. Can you share some stories about you and the Iron Sheik and Andre the Giant?
Well, Andre, he taught me how to play cribbage somewhere. I don't know where, somewhere in the middle of the country.
How to play what?
Cribbage. It's a little board game.
Okay.
I forgot how. That's the only time I ever played it was with him. But he was always very nice to me. Everyone was. All the guys were nice to me. And when I knew him, well, I guess I knew him before I was the WWF champion and after, but he was always very nice. I felt sorry for him that, he was so big that he had a hard life just because of that. He had to have a special van, but now that's pretty cool. I got a high top van now for my dogs, but back then that was unusual to have a real high roof. It could have been a custom van too for him. In the Sheik, I probably saw him more than Andre. And I liked him after we, got things worked out as far as, I wasn't gay just because I didn't like him. He respected me after that. You see my dog now?
I love this. I was just we were just talking. I had to put my father's dog down today. He was a Doberman, 15 years.
Oh wow, that's old.
That's pretty good for a Doberman, right?
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
for a large dog.
Laza Johnson is asking, fan out there is asking, after you left the WWE, did WCW ever call you?
What was the question? After I left the WCW?
After you left WWF, did WCW ever call you to come wrestle for them?
Yeah, yes, that's when I wrestled for them after I left the WWF.
And how was it over there?
I'm getting them confused.
You're thinking about WC, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't work for WCW.
They never called you. Wow, really?
And you know what? At that point, I didn't care anyway because I was going to school full time and wrestling on the weekends with independent shows. I didn't have a lot of time, and I didn't want to get back into wrestling full time and make nothing.
Right.
Wendi, how long was your career? What year was your first match, and what year was your last match? I'm just curious as to the time frame here.
Yeah, I think my first match was in 78 or 9.
Okay.
And my last one was 2005.
Oh, okay. So you did come back, and you've been doing a lot of independent on and off over the years since.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And it was fun. It was fun that I didn't need them to make a living. I enjoyed it. I did it because I enjoyed it. And, there's a saying, and I've said it over and over again, that if you love what you're doing, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And I loved wrestling. And I'm an occupational therapist now. I have a master's degree in occupational therapy. And I love what I'm doing. I like going to work because I like helping people and helping. I tease people, say, instead of putting them in the hospital, I'm helping them get out of the hospital and to be independent. So it's totally different than wrestling, but I really enjoy what I'm doing.
How has your physicality held up? You took a kabillion bumps over the years. How are you feeling physically after all these years, from taking all these bumps? Has your body been kind to you overall?
Yes. I've been blessed. Now, if the dogs would stop crashing into me, they get excited. I get these high-speed crashes, and they're always hitting me about knee height. So if they just stop doing that,
so the dogs are not working soft. They've got to work with soft paws.
Oh, they're stiff. They don't pull any crashes. They run into me full blast.
Wendi, if you had one regret through your wrestling career, what would it be?
I probably would have liked to speak to Moolah, and I would like to maybe forgive her for what she did to me. I would like to, and I'll never have that opportunity to make amends. And I'm okay with Vince McMahon. I haven't told him to his face, but I've said it enough on television. He's probably seen it. So I have no ill feelings towards them or the WWF. As a matter of fact, they did more for women's wrestling than anyone ever has. So, I mean, they did a lot for women's wrestling.
Well, I think you and quite a few others have done a lot for women's wrestling, and the millionaires that are running around today really should pay tribute to what you guys opened the door for them, right? You know, they're amazing at what they did, but without you, it just doesn't happen. Wendi, I want to thank you for joining us. What an honor. I want to thank Sal for hooking us up with you. Pharaoh's going to ask you something called the Pharaoh's Final Question. Now, it's unscripted.
Okay.
I don't know what he's going to ask. It has nothing to do with me. So have at it, Jimmy.
All right. Well, I asked Rock and Robin it, so I'm going to ask Wendi Richter it. Wendi,
Okay.
give me your Mount Rushmore of women's wrestlers. I need 4 ladies that you feel should be immortalized in a Mount Rushmore for women's professional wrestling.
Leilani Kai, Judy Martin, Joyce Grable, and it may have to be Moolah, even though I don't like her.
It's not a bad list, Wendi. It's not a bad list.
Yeah.
Well, our Mount Rushmore has Wendi Richter on it, so there's always that.
That's for sure.
We should have let her put herself on. We'll bump Moolah and put Wendi on there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Moolah.
See ya.
See ya. She had a mask on anyway. We don't put masks on Mount Rushmore.
That's right. All right, so Wendi, want to thank you again. Thank you for what you've done for the industry. Thank you for what you've done for the fans and giving us all this enjoyment. You're a true icon, a great human being, clearly great moral standard, and great political views, which is very important to me. She's on the right side of things, which makes me very, very happy.
Well, thank you. And I didn't even know what party I was for until I took political science in school, and I guess I was indoctrinated and didn't know it. And they did everyone took a test, and I was so conservative that I was more conservative than Newt Gingrich.
Wow.
I thought, oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Okay.
And so after that, I became a young Republican. But I'm not going to vote just for the party. I'm going to vote for the person. If it's an independent that I think is going to lead the country, that's who I'm voting for. So I'm not all the way in any on any side. I'm going to vote who I feel is best for this country.
Well,
turn it around.
That's the way it should be. I used to be a young Republican. Now I'm a fat old Republican, but I'm still a Republican. So I mean that's important. All right, so Wendi, I'm going to ask you this question now. I know we're going to go, but I have to ask you then. What is the biggest problem in this country right now?
Oh my gosh, there's so many problems. We're so far in debt. I mean, they got to stop the spending, and we have to secure the borders. We don't even know what's coming over here. They got to protect our veterans and seniors, or they're not going to have Medicare. It's just a shame, and it's so corrupt. The media is so corrupt. That's why I don't even watch television. I got a TV in every room, and I don't have cable, and I don't miss it. I don't.
Amen.
I don't want to hear everyone complain. Let's do something about it. Let's stop complaining, and let's solve some problems. There's so many problems, and I don't believe anything that either side. I think they're feeding us what they want us to think. I think they're trying to steer you one way or the other, and I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm very upset the way the situation we're in, and China just wants to dominate the world. And you know what? People keep buying from China. You can't help if you buy anything at Home Depot or uh, Harbor Freight. That's all from China. Ace Hardware. I don't buy anything from China. Now I may buy from them, and they're buying it from China. But if it says China, I'm not giving them my credit card after they cooked up COVID and shipped it over here and around the world. All of that was pre-planned. You can't tell me that just happened. That was all done in the lab, and they bought up the masks, all this equipment ahead of time. So, I mean, they made a lot of money, and what they did to this country, and the country's just in bed with China. They don't even care how many people they killed around the world, and the country's so corrupt. So corrupt.
Yeah, but we have our iPhones now, so that's probably the most important thing, right?
So I don't know.
Great.
There's so many problems. I don't know which one's the worst.
Well, it sounds like you're with us that you'll be voting for the Don in late 2012.
Oh my God! You know what? I would take a bullet for him if I could. Yeah. If I knew that would save our country, I would take a bullet for him.
Yep, it's a much more dangerous world we live in right now, and the problem I think is that a lot of the people on that other side are just talking. I think we're being talked to death, to tell you the truth, and the internet's not helping with any of that. If this generation had to have the unpleasantries of an Adolf Hitler situation, which if we don't watch ourselves, eventually another one will crop up. We're going to be in a lot of trouble because we've been doing so much talking. We won't know what to do when action is required. We're that divided. So I agree with you. It's a mess.
And again, really important, I want to make an official statement that the great Wendi Richter will come out of retirement to destroy Tony Storm if the price is right. So Tony Khan, pay Wendi Richter. She will come out of retirement, and you'll actually get some viewers because Wendi Richter will be in the ring, and she will become the new AEW champion, right, Wendi?
You know what? It's going to take some cold, hard cash, but I'd do it.
Hey,
and they got to come up with
time.
And they got to come up with a little extra for us to be in the corner, Mike. I'm not letting go of that idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
All right, Wendi.
You got to roll the foreign objects in. Roll those foreign objects in.
Thank you again, Wendi. What an honor it was to have you on the show.
Thank you. I had fun.
We had fun.
The hour went by really fast.
It did.
There you go.
God bless you, Wendi.
Mike, can we bow to her on the way out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bow on the way in. I'm bowing.
We're still not worthy. We're still not worthy. Good luck with the puppies.
Wendi.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
All right, Wendi. Talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Jimmy.
Wow.
Wow is right, man.
Wow. That was great. She was great. Did not disappoint at all. Real person with a real opinion. Told everything straight from the shooter's
Jimmy,
hip.
I'm
awesome.
going to put you in 10th grade.
Yeah.
Is Jimmy Pharaoh ever thinking he's going to get the interview, the great Wendi Richter?
No. Of course not. Of course not. No. Look, one day we're going to reflect on all the work we've done over the last handful of years and look at all these names and, I don't want that day to come too quick because that'll mean we're like 75. But, it's moments like this that make everything so worth it. What a legend. What a great guest. What a great person. It's a home run, Mikey. It's a home run.
It is. Couple of things. I think Wendi knew it was moolah, but just didn't know she was going to get screwed over. Right?
I'm sure she figured things out pretty quickly, one way or the other.
That potato comment was gold, by the way. That was pretty funny.
But I can't help it. Moolah was built like a baked potato. It's the truth. But Mike, I'm not happy with how she got treated, man. Not for nothing. I mean, we can explore this next week. I know we're pressed for time, but
Yep.
I am not happy with that sort of treatment. That's terrible how she got treated.
I think, Jimmy, that back then, as again, not being able to recognize is ridiculous, but back then, like she said, or even Rocket Robin said, right? They were like the little people. It was a sideshow. But again,
Right.
when you built an entire like MTV thing over it,
Right. That was no sideshow, Mike.
that
You
was
know
not
it.
a sideshow.
That was no sideshow. And if she got paid like a sideshow, that's pretty
Here lies the problem.
that's pretty sad.
Here lies the problem, dude, to be honest with you, is if you remember back then, Wendi Richter was great.
Yeah.
But like in wrestling, you have to have an opponent. And Moolah wasn't working. I mean, they let Leilani Kai go over her so they could wrestle in WrestleMania as a match. I get that also. But you got to remember something. You had the Jumping Bomb Angels,
Right.
Judy Martin and Leilani Kai. There wasn't much to watch, dude.
Wendy didn't have a plethora of what we see today when we can rattle off names like Charlotte and Bailey and Becky Lynch. And even now you got Tiffany Stratton coming up. Imagine if Tiffany Stratton was around back in those days. Wendy would have had a hell of an opponent. Oh my God.
But the one thing I think in life when you can hold on to something, I know that there was a lot more stuff than professional wrestling to her. But I think Phil says it perfectly, right? She was the historic figure in pro wrestling, a major catalyst that launched wrestling into mainstream. Her and Cyndi Lauper were the catalyst. Hogan took it on. But they needed Lauper and Richter, Moolah, and Albano to light that spark.
It's all those ingredients, It's all of those ingredients in different percentages, obviously, but they were all part of it. Look, having Muhammad Ali there was a big deal. Agreed?
Agreed.
Having Liberace there was a big deal. It was. Liberace was a big name back in the day,
Yep.
Like all these ingredients in Vince McMahon's soup is what made this whole thing work. Everybody was perfect for their roles. It was just the right place, the right time, and historically, perfection. I mean, look at Wendy all these years later. Look, the best part of her story is that she got saved, and she's very, very happy now.
Exactly.
And she looks back on her wrestling career with a lot more joy than bitterness, and that's really the way to go, to me.
And she wishes she could break bread with Moolah again, even though she didn't like her, which I thought was pretty cool too. RJ Hudson says she deserves a lot more credit for women's wrestling and the women's evolution. All right, guys, I want to thank you for joining us for Wendi Richter. We want to remind you guys next week we've got the original Podfather, Don Tony, in studio with us. Monte The Pharaoh meet Don Tony from the Don Tony and the Kevin Castle Show. I'm excited for that. Jimmy, and as always, we thank you guys for taking your time out on a Thursday where you have families, friends, parties, work. You're busy people, but you're always here to support us, and we mean it when we say it. We love you guys for what you do. Jimmy, send us out.
You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh, and until next week with the Godfather, Don Tony. Later.